In a game like Destiny 2, where so much information is provided through the radar, having an ability which takes you off the radar is extremely powerful. Invisible Hunters were already a big feature of the PvP meta, including Trials of Osiris at the end of Season 15. With Void 3.0, Hunters have access to aspects which let them have 100% invisibility uptime even easier. As a result, Invisible Hunters are a huge part of the PvP meta in Season 16, as you've probably experienced in Trials already. Playing against just one, never mind 3 Invisible Hunters can be a very frustrating experience, so in today's video, I want to cover a variety of methods we can use to counter invisibility. Sound cues in Destiny are very useful, but aren't as prominent as say a game like Fortnite where footstep localization is much more reliable. Although we can hear hunters when they first go invisible, it becomes so much more difficult to hear their footsteps afterwards. So how do we counter invisible hunters if we can't hear their footsteps reliably even with surround sound headphones? I'm going to go over several strategies now through exotics, perks, and builds that can help to hard counter against invisibility. Some of these strategies will be applicable to all classes, while some will be class specific. Let's get started. So first of all, we have a very underrated exotic armor piece for warlocks, the GETAWAY Artist. These are exotic gloves which overcharge your Arc Soul on Bottom Tree Stormcaller. Now, overcharging your Arc Soul pretty much doubles the DPS of these bad boys and makes them pretty lethal. The best thing about these little critters is that they do not give a damn about whether your opponent is invisible or not. So how do we use this efficiently? Well, you consume your grenade to proc the GETAWAY version of Arc Soul, but once you have the overcharged version, you can then use a rift to reset the GETAWAY soul timer to full. So an ideal build here is going to be 100 discipline and 100 recovery to maximize starting the loop with your grenade and then refreshing it with your rift. 2 things to keep in mind: if you place a rift before consuming your grenade, you get a regular Arc Soul from it, and if you consume your grenade while you have a regular Arc Soul active, it does not give you the overcharged version. Honestly, running 2 of these on a Trials team with something like pulse rifles is absolutely insane. It's like having 2 extra buddies on patrol to look out for invisible threats. And then when you engage people, if you miss a headshot and hit a body shot or 2 with your pulse, these little things will finish your opponent off. If you want a non-hunter composition to counter 3 invisible hunters, try using 2 GETAWAY Artist Warlocks and then 1 Void 3.0 Titan for the overshield. This team composition is very, very fun to run. Something similar to this, but probably not as effective, is the Bleak Watcher Stasis Turret. Now, these things aren't as lethal as the overcharged Arc Soul, but they're pretty good at spotting invisible targets, and they're really good at placing behind your back to cover your flank. Next, let's talk about weapons that highlight targets. There's one weapon here that's already meta and is insane at targeting other players, even when invisible, and that's Lorentz Driver. If there already wasn't a billion reasons to use Lorentz Driver, here's another one. When Lorentz Driver targets another player, they are visible even through invisibility. And not only that, you don't even have to be using Lorentz Driver to get this targeting bonus. Even your primary weapon can get the bonus for targeting, just equipping Lorentz Driver is enough. If you've enjoyed what I've talked about so far, remember to like the video, that helps me out a ton, guys. Another weapon I thought that was really good at highlighting players, but this time you have to have shot them at least once, is Sunshot. The explosive damage of Sunshot kind of makes the opponent sort of on fire, and so you can see them for a few seconds after you hit them. A lot of other people have been saying that weapons such as the Europa weapons, Mida, and Azume, all which highlight players when they're not invisible, also work while invisible, but through my testing in a private match, that was not the case, so I wouldn't personally recommend using those weapons to highlight invisible players. Next, we have another Warlock exotic. I know what you're thinking, Titan brothers, you guys are getting shafted against invisibility. The exotic helmet, Eye of Another World, has the exotic perk Cerebral Uplink, which highlights targets and improves the regeneration speed of abilities. Now, originally this was used in a variety of Warlock builds to get your grenade, melee, and rift back quickly, but here we're going to be recommending it for its marking abilities. So this ugly ass exotic helmet actually marks players in 2 methods. The first way it marks targets is when they're slightly low health, roughly 40% HP from my testing, and then they are highlighted red. And this highlights even when they're invisible. The damage can be from teammates as well and doesn't have to be inflicted by you. This method isn't that reliable, however, as if your enemy is low health, you kind of already know where they are. The more exciting way it marks targets is when they have super. When an enemy has super, they will be highlighted yellow constantly, and even through invisibility. This is going to be clutch in the latter rounds of Trials of Osiris, where people hold on to their super. An Invis Hunter relying more on their neutral game rather than their super can easily be caught out by this exotic. Okay, enough Warlock tips. Next, we have wall hacks. No, I'm not advising you to start downloading illegal software. I'm talking about using abilities or weapons that provide true sight. The bow Wish Ender can be very useful in providing wall hacks and callouts for teammates when countering invisible hunters. If you pair this bow with the hunter exotic Oathkeepers, you can constantly call out your enemy's positions to your teammates. Another hunter exotic which is quite good is Kepri's Sting, which are exotic gauntlets which provide true sight when you consume your melee energy. Finally, we have the perk Threat Detector, which after Quick Draw has been nerfed is actually a very good perk to run anyways on CQC weapons, as it gives a noticeable handling buff. For example, the Godroll Sojourner's Tale actually should have the perk Threat Detector rather than Quick Draw, so you aren't actually going out of your way using a mediocre weapon to counter Invis Hunters. When enemies are close to you, on the bottom left of your screen the Threat Detector buff will come up, which will alert you that an enemy is nearby. If your radar isn't pinging and Threat Detector is, that means there's an invisible boy next to you. So there you have it, guys, a variety of methods that you can use to counter invisible Void 3.0 hunters. I didn't just want to say go invisible yourself. I know you guys want to carry on playing your Warlocks and your Titans, so I've tried to avoid that in this video. Let me know in the comments below what strategies you are using in the Crucible this season to counter these pesky little boys. If you've made it this far, remember to slap that like button, and if you want more useful, helpful content like this, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. That's all for today, guys. Peace out.